cleats, but not far from it, he said. So I figured 4 eyes is better than, you can check it out. Oh, he said it has moss on it. Is that it?
There's moss on it. There's moss on all these.
Yeah,
So, Gary.
Look, but flatter than this. Awesome.
Cut the bar of the teeth around the base.
You take that one out, all right? And I'm going to check this one.
Onions. Somebody left a penny there. We're up on Culp's Hill today. Me and the professor. And I'm always up for a good history lesson. And enjoying the natural beauty of Culp's Hill. Enjoying the natural beauty of Culp's Hill. I didn't see anything on those rocks, but somebody did put a penny there. Somebody, probably had ancestors that had their troops right here, and so they put that there as kind of a remembrance and a memorial. Like people putting these rocks on here.
Yeah, that was a Jewish thing, you put rocks on gravestones for the dead.
It's a Scandinavian thing too. Yeah. When we make cairns, I don't see nothing here.
Was in platoon, where they're going out on patrol, and the guy says, just shit can this, get rid of this. He opens his eyes, says, get rid of this. You don't need this. And then they go up. And I thought, of course, anybody who actually had to move fast is not going to put up with any of that crap. Anyway.
Well, do you remember the accounts that we discussed a couple of years ago about the troops right before Pickett's charge that dumped a lot of their accoutrements?
Being close to a marshy area.
Yep.
That would
it causes root. Some trees will thrive on it, like a willow. Other trees don't.
Yeah.
There's hardwoods that prefer a drier soil base as opposed to a tree like a willow that doesn't.
Well, it's kind of cool to imagine that those survivors were hanging around on the stone wall, cooking their coffee.
Hell yeah.
And munching, ran around with little shebangs up, probably.
I think we should.
Saying to them,
let's go get our stuff.
What the fuck are we doing now? What is this Meade guy doing now?
Let's go get our stuff.
Long gone.
Let's camp out tonight and get arrested.
No,
come on, we'll be famous.
That's great. It doesn't. The truth is that we got that on my sister sleeping at Spangler Spring. I don't even have these impulses that I want to sleep in this battlefield or at Gettysburg anymore. Because I did. I came up, but the last time I slept on Culp Hill because I came in here during 4 winters ago, and I arrived here right at 8:30. And I had my 25 below sleeping bag. I just took that out of the car. It was like at that early in the morning. I've been driving all night. I just went up halfway up the slope between 2 boulders, threw it down, and slept for 4 hours. Woke up at 12. Wow! I slept on the Culp Hill battlefield, and I'm ready to go now. And I told one of the bartenders about this lady. She said, "You slept on the battlefield." God, she apparently believes in ghosts and things. I said, "There's nothing out there. There was still patches of snow." And I was thinking,
hell yeah.
And I was so comfortable.
That sounds awesome.
Ghost, come out, buddies. I want to see you.
See, they took a bush hog through here.
Young guy would be carrying all the stuff he was issued, before his first fight. And the older guys would say, get rid of that, get rid of this, if they liked them.
Right.
And then they would stack their knapsacks. Leave it here, we'll get back to it later after the attack. And then some took the knapsack anyway. So, okay, everybody went through that. But the loose crap, I'm talking like this. See, I don't know if I told you this. I was looking at my notebook about citizens' eyewitness viewpoints from the Historical Society, and I bumped onto this thing, and this lady, get this on Middle Street, says, the soldiers, this is the Union retreat through town, she said, are stripping off their shirts, and where their leathers were, the leather straps, are welted, red, bleeding marks.
No kidding.
Throwing this crap off. And I thought, hot summer day, they've been in that field moving like this with their straps moving. At that point, you say to yourself, chafing to the point of bloody marks, she said, that's an insight. And remember, leather softens with time. But if you've been recently issued this, it's that stiff kind of shit. And your body is twisting as you're loading. But they can't get rid of it until they get there. But I never heard that before. And here's the lady saying it. It's very strange. They're tearing off their shirts. And there are their welt marks. And they're pulling off this leather, dumping it as they then move towards Cemetery Hill. I never heard that. I like these things that never heard before.
Rifle straps too.
Because they were out in those fields for most of those units for a couple of hours fighting. Look, unfortunately, me and him concluded, because he shared evidence with me, there were a lot more stone boulders here in 1863. They had been mined out, and he also brought
I've been using them to build a house, yeah.
He said, you look at some of the foundations in town, and they're coming out here for building materials.
Damn right.
And the Parks Department, when they built, they had a boulding crushing machine, a steam thing. And what do they do with all that debris? Probably sold it for construction.
When Hey, Gary.
Yeah.
Bingo.
Okay.
Yep, just like you said. Hey.
Yeah, no.
It's right there.
Double check. Yeah, that's the way you described it.
Right next to the creek. That's cool.
TV?
Yep.
All right. And he said 1858. Is that clear enough to you?
It does look like a 5, yeah. That's cool.
I tell you, for the most part, the sites that have carvings at Gettysburg, rock carvings, I didn't see any of them that point to this side of Culp Hill. I'm thinking to myself, is this known? It's got to have been discovered by other people. You would think.
It looks to me like people have walked through here. But we've had a lot of storms recently too.
The camera broke. Oh, I see.
But this is good. That's very cool. Gary?
Yes?
Thanks for showing me.
Mm-hmm.
I always learn something new when I'm with you.
What would have done that? I guess it just naturally goes off kilter. You want to take... In this book I've been reading, the author is a Western book, but it's classic, The Searchers, John. He describes, the young man describes seeing that kind of tree in the desert, but the size of a human being. And because of his traumatized life with massacres and this and that, he said it was blackened by the sun, and what he associated to was a corpse standing up out of the ground pointing at the sky or the way to go. And he was so rare. And there's something interesting about them. You know, the dead tree at a certain angle and whatnot.
That
I want to get a family feeling, but I want to get a set of tapes TV. They don't have it at the library that I see, but it's the Waltons. Because not that was just my college years, the Waltons was on TV, but it creates this atmosphere. Did you ever see that TV show?
That was based on my family.
But I mean, it creates this atmosphere of like a family. And,
yes.
And like the comforts of a family, these wonderful little stories about.
Yeah.
And later she said, well, what do you think? I'm a human being, and that wonderful family atmosphere gave me something I didn't have as a kid. I found it fascinating.
The joke. John Boy goes on to, World War I. And All Quiet on the Western Front. with Ernest Borgnine. No, I'm just saying.
Oh, you're talking about the remake.
I love that film too. That's just it's one of my favorite films, All Quiet on the Western Front.
Yeah,
I love when
it was a very good production.
When Ernest Borgnine as Katz says, "That rifle, that bayonet, you don't need that. Just toss that away. You don't need that.
This is your best tool.
This is the shovel. That's all you need. You can bust a skull with it. You can dig a hole with it."
Right here,
yeah.
It curves back toward town. It's put together like a mosaic. Now, those rocks are put together. I saw it one summer, and I said, "That's a German farmer." German farmer would just throw them. They do this whole. They separate them into stacks, the big, the small, and then they place them like the Amish would do. They had a nice, and that wall, just when it curves around, beautifully constructed. And I asked Heiser, "Well, that's an original?"
They want it to last.
I said, "The way it's put together, Heiser," I said, "it looks like a craftsman of the field did it, not just some idiot or parks warden." He said, "Don't you have any documentation?" He said, "Could be." I said, "So nobody really knows." And Tim would say the same thing. That was here during the battle,
Yeah. And
we've got all the boulders. It's just there's only probably half of them total number that were here. Who knows? Till you have a photograph taken from those years.
The former FBI agent, buddy, you've met him before.
Right,
He's got a big beard. He told me there's a rock similar to this.
Yeah.
That a soldier was wounded at the base of Little Round Top near Devil's Kitchen, and he had sheltered underneath this rock and had carved his initials there. And somebody found it like 100 years ago, but no one's been able to find it since.
Are you filming this discussion?
Always.
Oh, okay.
In the spring, when everything's down on the ground like this, when the leaves are down and the grass is down, because in the summertime, the overgrowth, you can't see anything in there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, that's a very hard. I think it's too heavy scraping.
And so the Iron Brigade was right up there, weren't they?
Yes, the remains of it.
Yeah.
And I've asked people like Tim and whatever, do you think they were, I said I got two visions of what they were doing. They are absolutely wiped out. They're lying there and they're saying we got wounded. They're not even lifting a gun to fire at these charging Confederates' flank, long way through the woods. And he said, we don't know. There's no reports, as Tim said. You know, in the bat shelter, you understand, bat shelter after the war, he wrote to all the officers in both armies. He said, tell me exactly where you were at Gettysburg. And so these guys that do the real search coordinate all those things and say, well, this guy said. So Tim said to me, you know, you're reading that, and he read all that stuff, and he says sometimes they're wrong. And you say they weren't together. We know they weren't on this. So they'll say the 115th was to our left, and so-and-so's the right. We're on the upward slope of. But I got a feeling that trench, that along the path there, which was probably built in 1872 to mark their position. Those guys were so exhausted and wounded.
Yeah, wiped out day one.
Thinking, fuck, you know. They saw so much.
The interesting thing about, you know, living history for this is in the spring, at Spangler Spring, and May 20th, we portray the 21st Virginia. Yeah. Chalk level grays.
This marker here, the first one, you're saying has the 21st Virginia
That's
marker?
the 21st Virginia marker, yeah.
It's a brigade marker.
Yeah.
I mean, within it is the 21st Virginia.
Yeah.
One of the regiments.
Right.
Okay. All right. But they veer. When they see the steepness of this hill, so they go up, they say, veer to the left, They're fed over. Because it's approachable. Up here is impossible. Here's okay, but this way, from the creek.
Gotcha.
Now what gets me is these guys in the attack, they didn't like, these attacks are made from the front. In other words, it's not like they said, they're sitting by the creek bed and some scouts come back and they said, well, we checked it out, there's a worn-out brigade to our right, meaning the Iron Brigade, and it's okay. Right to the left of them is a very steep area. They don't get any intelligence. They're charging ahead and they experience a slope, so they veer. So it's like they're feeling their way. But you would have thought that they would have, scouts or somebody would have, you know, checked out the terrain ahead of time. Yeah,
because that terrain that hill was there, right there on the right of the road, to your right, straight ahead of you. I wouldn't want to go up over that. You're sitting duck.
Well, that's just the slope.
Right.
See, they may have
but like you said,
to make the road
veer around and come up that way. You're not going up over a hill. You're going down an uphill.
Yes, and then you experience a lower elevation than here with the tower.
Now around there to the right, when they attacked right up Culp's Hill, I mean, it's really good and flat for a ways, and then it goes up. Yeah. And that because I have a degree in dirt, and he's looking for some of the areas where soldiers were supposedly, you know, still buried on the field. And so he wanted to ask me, you know, do you think that this is a burial, or is it where a tree was?
Right.
And some of them were, and some of them were, and some of them weren't. Yeah. You know, a lot of them in here at the base of Culp's Hill that people claim are burials. I could point out where they were trees and where they were moved for burials.
So you mean over the burial?
The difference, yeah. He's shown me a lot of areas in here where people are saying, well, that's a burial spot. But once I looked at it,
they can shoot apart because they got fire coming from the right, the center, and somewhat to the left. So they're an in-flight fire. And it's like a meat grinder. And then when that, you know, our friends, the 4th Virginia, one of those guys in town, when they hit the field, the last brigade to arrive, they're hovering down here. And the officer says, what are you doing here? Get your men to fight. And they have to go in there, and they sustain over 50% casualties with surrenders and everything else. That 4th Virginia, I think that was the one that friends attacked over. Because they go right into the saddle, the punch bowl. That's what I call it. Right in there. Which your eyes would take you to, because that's the natural pathway, like but it's in fact it's barricaded all along the top, entrenchments. I don't even know if they made entrenchments. I think they just stacked up blocks. Because you got one night to do it. Why fuck with the dirt? Get all the lumber you can and stack it. Because they said on that ridge line they also had head logs. You know what that is? Okay, so you stack up the logs here, breast height. Then you put across logs like this, and you put a final log So you've got a peephole to protect your head. It's called a headlock. And if it gets hit by artillery, it'll roll over you because the sticks that are holding it up are going to the ground like this. That headlock will roll back, hopefully safely. But it protects your head while you got a firing gun. So they're facing a fucking wall. This guy is old man Greene.
It was Greene.
He's the guy that get out there and dig.
Because he was an engineer. His occupation. He was an engineer. When he first saw that, he said, "We need to.
Absolutely.
We need to dig in."
He should be credited much more in the story of Gettysburg for defending the right flank with that, because other officers would have just said, "Pile up some stones. They're coming." He said, "You're grading in the trench all night."
Well, on top of that, when Greene did that, he barricaded in Meade's ass.
Oh, yeah.
You know, covering their back.
Sure, it's incredible. He's barely. If you want to walk through the woods, there's a lot of rocks. We could just take the path and they cut up through the attack area.
Yeah. Yeah, because if we go up that way and cut to the left, we can cut up where the 2nd Maryland was.
Oh yeah, it's right up there. Right up there.
There's a path and a gate coming up.
Because even though the way they laid out these markers, it suggests that they're making a coordinated attack in one break line. No, they're really going into the same saddle, to the same punch ball.
Yeah, that would make sense.
They arrive here at the creek in this order, but then they have, I guess they hear the firing. They feed through the general same area and get pretty much decimated there.
For several nights, I really got into reading about the aftermath of this battle on day 2 and day 3, and the burials and the written accounts of people who were here witnessing the burials, and it was really moving.
Oh yeah?
The stuff they were describing.
So where did you find that?
On the internet, there's journals and diaries of people who were here at Culp, you know, doing burials.
So what would you Google then, like Culp Hill?
Yeah, burials. Yeah, and there was accounts of people who, and there was one journalist here, I believe, from Washington, who wrote about what he saw right in here. And
But they have maps.
He was
sort of like sketch maps.
I didn't see any, no, but I was reading what they were writing. It's just, you know, the account of what they were describing was just so hardcore. This is where we were going. He wanted me to give him my professional opinion on what was actually a burial site and what wasn't. And in a lot of the areas I showed him, you can still see where rocks and dirt were moved after the battle from people doing the digs. And he's like, well, do you think that's a burial? And I said, well, look at the dirt and the rocks thrown up over that other large rock. Somebody was digging there. And there's been many times where we've been in here, I know you've been in here more than me, you live nearby, where I've seen Confederate flags hanging from trees in here. I feel like we should have our uniforms on. I always love it when somebody will post on a social network on the internet and they'll say, yeah, you know, Sunday night around 5, 6 o'clock, I saw Confederate, we smelled cigar smoke, and then we saw Confederate soldiers walking into the woods, and I'm like, that was me and my buddy taking a walk. Yeah. No, it wasn't. And I'm like, yeah, it was. Doesn't
this flat area suggest it's easier to dig pits in to bury?
Look at the moss around the base of the trees.
What does the moss mean?
It's significant. There's consistent moisture here. He wanted to ask me what a lot of these that people have been claiming are burials. I can point out where the tree is, where it fell to make the crater. Because people think that because sinkage, there's a burial there, and I'm like, there's the remnants of the tree where that actually
that makes sense,
came from. But then there was other spots though where I'm like, yeah, that definitely looks like a burial. Look at the soil that's thrown up on the adjacent rock, and that's from.
You think soil from the adjacent rock's going to stay there for us?
Yeah, it's a lot of soil. That's a lot of soil and a lot of rocks, and we'll probably see it here in a few minutes.
See there?
And it's because no, people were digging stuff there, but you know, people over the years have said, oh well, they buried soldiers there in a line.
No, you say to yourself, see, it's easier if we're digging.
That mound right there was thrown up there.
The term is often used, pits,
Yep.
Now, frankly, a group of guys buried them and couldn't give a shit about the bodies or their surveyors. I'm not going to train them building a deep pit like you see a bulldozer would do.
Right.
They're just going to build big like a trench, in my opinion, and throw the roller bodies in it, and minimum amount of dirt in it. Right? They're not going to dig a deep pit.
All of this there is not man-made.
You know what's the weird thing that
Or I'm sorry, that's not natural.
What is it?
These hills right here, that's dirt that was thrown up there.
Isn't it strange how much earth is out of location here?
Yeah.
How much earth? It's almost as if you'd suggest that there was some kind of, building in here.
Compare it to what's behind you. That's what it should look like.
I've never seen or talked to anybody about was there a building on Culp? Salvation, because it's never discussed. Because the park had seized this land very early on, they wouldn't have had, but like you say, look at all this earth.
Was there? Do you remember a Stuckey's being on Emmetsburg Road when you were a kid?
Yes, of course. Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. It was opposite the peach field.
We always had to stop at a Stuckey's.
Well, the guy at Horse Soldier tells me I lived on right there by the peach orchard. He said there was a road 8-9 years after that. I thought, whoa, never occurred to me. It's true though that cloth. So, like that woman in the civilian accounts, it's the guy's hunting. I told you that, right? He's hunting in 1864, I think it was. And he comes across a woman and 2 girls, and they're flipping over Confederate corpses. They're stacked up by the railroad cut. And he says, man, what are you doing? She says, I'll know them by the shirt I made for him. But the daughters are helping. I told people that story, and they're like, fuck, rotting corpses. 6-7 months, that's got to be one stinking mess, right? But certain things that guys carry, yeah, that's the question.
Piece of jewelry, pocket watch,
maybe,
wedding ring.
Maybe, right? Something. What else? What's the most common thing you carry that a family would recognize? Aside from the clothing, if the women made it. They recognize the fabric, the stitchery. The women would recognize it.
Tintype. Because a lot of the soldiers, their wives, they'd take a picture of their wife with them.
Sure.
When they went off to war.
A Bible might be signed.
Yep, absolutely.
By their family members. Good luck, Henry. Come back to me. Something like that. But a lot of guys would have been stripped down to almost nothing. Well, maybe there was an understanding to have something that ID'd you, before dog tags. Maybe there was an understanding among the men, have something on you. Carve your initials on your canteen. Something.
Right.
Because they must have sensed that they could disappear into the soil. They would be just another body. So, anyway, it's very interesting. And it's hard to find those. You could find one memoir where the guy says something like that. I carved my name on it in case, like that. But it's not commonly discussed. I mean, you can't open the encyclopedia of, Union soldiers and find anything about marked for death, possible fighting and death. They don't quite say this.
No dog tags.
Yeah. Well, you see, at Petersburg, where's the big attack? Yeah, the breakthrough at Petersburg. I think it was. That's where they're scribbling their names on a piece of paper and having it pinned on the back of their jackets because they expect to die. So at least when the bodies are stacked up, somebody can see, oh, that's Bill.
Well, I noticed that you did that when we
we
reenacted Pickett's Charge. Yeah.
That used to be said, and it couldn't have just been only there. It must have evolved that idea. Yeah, you might write your initials on the inside of a piece of article of clothing. Right? Yeah, it's very interesting. Like I have a cartridge box in the Civil War. I bought a Horse Soldiers, maybe 1985. It's in good condition with the plate and everything. And it's the guy's name is written as clear as day. It goes through that, under that headlock and takes somebody out. So the casualty rate of these Union units up here is pretty marginal. All these relics lying around.
Well,
I cut through a farm field on the first days thing. The crops are still there. And I get on the other end, and a couple in a car. The guy leans out and says, "Did you find anything?"
Nah.
And I wasn't looking. It was tilled soil. Did you
Right.
find anything? Yeah, you go ahead and try it. You're welcome to. I was telling Voorhees that I had found a human foot, we're done in France, and he was like, wow. I said, yeah, it was pretty wild, but I left it there. I thought, be a good guy, don't take human remains out of the country. Poor guy died there. His gravestone. Great rock, isn't it?
No, you want to sit and have a cup of coffee?
Well, whatever you want. You're the guy with the coffee.